Hey, I'm Taylor, a business consultant and strategist, and I'm here to teach you that you can scale your business sustainably. This is Simply Business, your playbook for structure, clarity, and strategy that grows your business without costing your lifestyle. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Simply Business podcast. I'm so excited because I'm joined with Natasha Etchman today. She is, I want to say, a jack of all trades. Like, you are across all areas.
That's so lovely.
An author of the Get Rich Slow Club is your podcast. Author of How to Not Work Forever, and you're in the Forbes 30 Under 30 as well. And you've just opened a mortgage broking business. So you are across it all, and I'm so excited for today's conversation. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Such a lovely intro. How exciting.
Got the book and the podcast the wrong way around,
That's fine.
but
So
we're
many
there.
names.
I am so excited to have you on. I was just saying off air because I really want to open up a conversation for business owners and founders, and of course, if you're not in the business space, that's perfect and fine, around being able to actually use your business as a vehicle to build wealth. And I think a lot of the time we hear, reinvesting back into your business, which is so important, but actually being able to build wealth for yourself personally with your business, which I'm really excited for.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I would love to know for anyone that maybe more so doesn't know like your story more than anything, because I think people might be familiar with your name and have seen your content or reels pop up, but I would love to kind of know, you went from support work to where you are now. I would love like a bit of a backstory of like what got you here, what got you like investing, building a personal brand. I'd love to hear a bit of a backstory.
Yeah. Just being interested in money, I guess, came from my parents. They were always very open about money and they always spoke about it. Like that was really kind of easy for me. And when I turned 18, I was kind of talking to my friends about money. I realized that they didn't understand it in the same way, and that really surprised me. So I bought my first shares when I was 18, thanks to Dad. And then I bought my first apartment when I was 22. But social media stuff just kind of started when I was really bored at work one day. I was a support worker working in residential group homes. We were doing lots of overnight shifts. I was just kind of like scrolling on my phone being like, oh, cool, there's people in the US doing it. I might just post online and see what happens. And then it really took off from there.
Yeah.
But there wasn't like a massive plan or anything. I tried things and then they kept working, which is really awesome.
Yeah. How long has it been since that you decided, obviously you were 18, like you said, when you started investing, but from sharing content online, like how long has that journey been?
It was August of 2020 that I started.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
5.5 years, which is crazy.
Yeah,
So
that is crazy.
Yeah, I feel like so much has happened.
Yeah, incredible. I would love to know on that then. Obviously, you built your personal brand first before building your business. And has that been like, what's been the main thing for like an income driver for you? Obviously, you've just recently opened up your mortgage broking business, but has it been more like personal brand content that's been, your revenue driver, if you will?
Yeah, I've only recently started thinking of it as a business properly because I was always like, I don't really like the whole like influencery side of things, I guess.
Yeah.
But it technically is a business. Like I've hired someone full time who's worked with me for like a year now, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, it's mostly been from sponsor content. So working with brands on reels and stuff like that. I have a podcast as well, which is monetized. We make a bit of money from that. I got a book advance as well to write the book. So it's been lots of different things, but mainly sponsor content.
Yeah, cool. What was the thing that got you into writing the book? Did that organically come from the podcast?
It just landed in our inbox, the offer. I never thought I wanted to write a book, so I was like, oh, that sounds really hard. I hated long uni assignments and I hated doing my honours project at uni, and writing a book just seems like the longest uni project ever, which it was. But when an offer lands in your inbox, you can't really say no to that. Yeah. I'm glad I did it. I probably wouldn't do it again. I'm glad I did it once.
You're like, I can say I'm an author. Now I'm done.
Ticked it off. I love reading fiction, but not nonfiction. So I was like, this is an interesting insight into writing nonfiction, but not for me.
Yeah, I feel like I'm more of a podcast, like audiobook listener for nonfiction. I'm like, when I try and sit and read, I'm like, I'm so bored. Like,
I love reading.
Yeah.
I love reading. But I think I prefer making like shorter form content where you give an answer in 30 seconds. Trying to write like the intro paragraph and then the body paragraphs and the conclusion again was like being right back at school.
Yeah, totally. What did you study at uni?
Occupational therapy.
Right, okay.
Which I think has been really, really helpful not coming from a finance background. Because I think if you come from this world, you talk in all the jargon and you like assume all of this knowledge beforehand. But I think because I came from that completely different background, it's been very helpful.
Do you feel like as well, because you didn't come from like it being so theoretically based, if you will, like in finance, it's kind of like a bit more practical? Because I find that when, you have a meeting with an accountant and it's like, all of these numbers and all of the jargon, like you were saying, but it like actually kind of makes no sense. And I find a lot of the time too, I was having a conversation with my dad about this around like, financial advice and all of the things. And people like, just go to an accountant. And my dad was like, but most accountants don't have a business. They don't actually have like anything invested. I'm like, it's actually so true. Like we get financial advice from people that are, yes, qualified, but haven't actually built anything themselves. And not that that applies all of the time, but
or they're qualified to give you the good tax advice, but they probably shouldn't be giving you too much financial advice, even though some of them do. I've seen
yeah.
some very interesting advice floating around there, I guess.
Yeah.
Especially when you're younger. Like one example, I had a mortgage broker tell me not to fix my loan when I first bought my apartment because I bought it back in the era of 2% interest rates, which was really fun. And I was so
Jealous.
sure. Yes, so sure they were going to go up. So I wanted to fix it. And so many brokers were like, oh no, you're really young. Why would you want to do that? That's really silly. Like you should not do that. And then I did it anyway. And I was right, which is always fun.
Yeah. Love being right against someone that's like qualified and like 10, 20 years older than you.
I think she was like in her 50s, but yeah.
Something I've noticed as well on your Instagram is like you have like one of your pinned posts like that you're qualified to give advice.
Yes.
Tell me about like that qualification and what kind of made you want to go down that route of getting qualified.
Yeah, I didn't actually want to originally. I just wanted to share my journey and talk about investing online. But then when I started doing it, I had a lot of angry financial advisors telling me that was illegal and I shouldn't be doing that because of Australia and all its rules. ASIC, the regulator, actually kind of came out and said that we had to be licensed. So that prompted me to go and find someone who could license me. I was really lucky with the timing. I think I had like 20,000 followers back then. So I was big enough that people wanted to license me because they could benefit from it as well.
Yeah.
So the timing was really, really lucky. I just had to do like a few short courses on this thing called Kaplan. They're not very fun. It's just like you pay $500 for a PDF and then you do some multiple choice questions. Then you're qualified, apparently.
Oh.
Good times, yeah.
Wow, that's actually crazy.
Yeah, so I'm qualified to give general financial advice, but not personal financial advice.
Yeah, totally. So which applies for socials.
Yes.
Right,
yeah.
for content.
To everyone.
I would love to know, I wanted to kind of get to this a little bit later, but now that we're kind of here with like content, personal brand, you mentioned like, you know, angry people in your comment section. And I have definitely been having a stalk through your content. And I think anything money related as well, like really tends to activate people and, you know, they feel they're certain ways. I posted like a trial reel that went viral and it was like around our property investing. And I was like, I've gotten like a taste and that was one reel. And I was like, oh my God, like it's fucking terrifying.
I'm so angry.
Yeah. How have you kind of found that journey, especially when you first kind of started growing of like, oh my God, there's so much, like so many people watching me and like they have something to say.
It was, I think my first one that went really viral, it was like forever ago, but I got like 1 million views or something. And I was like, wow, people are really, really angry. This is crazy. And I kind of learned over the years that it's not really about me. And I think it was really good coming from a healthcare background and understanding like the psychology of people a little bit as well and knowing that it's not really about me. And like I can see why I'm quite triggering for some people. Like if you're having a bad day and you're struggling to pay your bills and you feel like you can't get ahead and it's just really, really hard. And then you see me on a playground being like, I've got this much money in my bank account. Like I can understand why that is quite triggering for some people.
Yeah.
So I think it was just, like, of course, it's like hard as well to scroll through and then be like, oh, have I done a bad thing? Am I saying it the wrong way? Have I come across in like a different tone where I should have like maybe tried to be a bit more open or friendly or like less look at me? But yeah, you kind of got to play the game on socials of getting attention at the same time. So I kind of know which videos will get hate these days.
Yeah. And I think when you can have that mindset of like welcoming, you know, people's opinions and like knowing that there isn't really black and white and like when you can be intentional with that, it works really well on socials.
Yeah. And especially knowing like if you are really sure of what you want to say, it doesn't really matter what people have to say about it. Like lots of people are like, oh, it's your daddy's money. And I know it's not my dad's money. So it's easy to be like, oh, well, like you can think that.
Yeah. I remember hearing that from like a mindset coach ages ago around like projections and people's opinions. And she's like, if someone was arguing with you, like telling you that you had purple hair, you'd be like, okay, like you're not trying to argue it because you're like, I literally don't have purple hair. So I think that's so true when you know your truth and you also know like the purpose behind why you're sharing the content that you are.
Yeah. And it does get hard sometimes. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to post something really boring today so that no one will comment and I don't have to deal with it. So I do like feel like that sometimes. Like you have to be in such a good headspace to be like, okay, cool, I'm ready to like anger the people today.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like you sometimes kind of go into it? Like I know like I have that kind of attitude sometimes and I'm like, oh, I'll stir the pot a bit. Like, do you feel like that's something that you can kind of just play on? Like,
yeah, definitely. Like I know what's going to annoy people. I know like if it's me in my sports bra reading a book on the treadmill talking about how much money I have, like that's going to get people really angry. But, like you kind of have to play the game a little bit too of being like, what's the greater good here? Like, do I want more people to see my content because then they'll be educated and then they'll hopefully go and learn it themselves? Or do I want to like feel safe and post boring things? And I do both.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think as well, like your content is having such an impact for people and like it can actually change people's trajectory of their life as well when they start having like, more financial literacy and actually understand how to build wealth as well.
Yeah, or just realizing it's even possible. I think that was my whole goal, was like a lot of people don't even think it's for them at all. They're like, oh, that's like a later thing over there for all the rich people. It's not even for me. So I don't even like intend to teach people everything. It's just like, hey, I'm a random person. I was a support worker. I learned all of this stuff myself. Like you can as well.
Yeah, I love that. My next question for you is, in building a business, so you've just opened your mortgage broking business. Tell me about that. Give me a bit of context because it's pretty fresh. Did you say in the past month that you've opened that?
Well, the team started on the 19th of January.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Which is, what is the date now? Like end of Feb? Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy.
so just over a month.
Yeah, so I hired them back in November. I put CCAS up to hire people and I started like kind of putting it together in October last year. I have been doing like social media stuff for 5 years now, and I make a lot of money for other brands, I found, through doing ads and sponsor posts. And I always wanted to do something that was like my business and I had control over it and I could use my audience for like whatever I kind of wanted.
Yeah.
And mortgage broking just seemed like a really good option. Financial advice is really, really regulated and tough to do, but mortgage broking is a little bit easier to just start a business in, I guess.
Yeah.
And I fit really well with my audience. And I was referring people to other mortgage brokers, so I'd much prefer to kind of keep them in-house.
Yeah, totally. And I think something as well that's cool in that for people to see, I think a lot of the time people go to like the business first and then the audience second, but you've nurtured this audience for almost 6 years now and actually really built an audience of, there's demand, there's actually buyers there and people that trust you.
Yeah, I had a lot of people kind of like over the last few years, I guess, everyone's like, why don't you start a different business? Like, what's your plan? What are you going to do? And I never really knew and I didn't want to rush it. So it's I'm glad that I waited until now to start the business, I guess, because the advice seems to be like, build the business and then market to everyone. But I think the other way around is like so handy and it's so easy. Like there's been challenges for sure, but it definitely feels like a life hack having the audience already.
Yeah, totally. You've got people ready to buy from you. It's like when influencers, start brands and it's like a product-based business and there is actually customers there.
Yeah.
What was your mindset going into, obviously you understand finances and I'm assuming like the whole movements of business, right? In comparison to maybe most people when they go into starting a business, they're like, oh my God, it's going to cost me this much, or like what's profit, expenses, like all of the things. Why mortgage broking? Like you mentioned, like your audience, and it just made sense for whether you're at, but was there other things that kind of went into the actual intention behind this business, if that makes sense?
It is such a good business model in terms of like, it is a free service that you provide to customers and then the bank pays you a commission for doing that work. And with house prices going up, the commissions are just going up for people doing the same amount of work. Like for an example, if you get $1 million loan, the upfront commission on that is $6,500, which is pretty cool. And then you get an ongoing trail as well. As long as the customer stays with you. So it like makes financially a lot of sense. It's like a really established industry, so it's easy to hire for, it's easy to get like business coaches for, it's easy to like have mentors for as well, because I'm not a mortgage broker and I am figuring out as I go, which has been always interesting. But yeah, I had a lot of friends who were doing it as well, so I kind of just saw the people around me doing it and I was like, oh, this seems cool as well.
Yeah. If that anyone's in a position listening to this where maybe it's like their first property or something along those lines, can you kind of talk me through the process if they were to come to your business, not necessarily you if you're not the mortgage broker, but just for people that maybe are a bit, I find even for myself, I was like so terrified, like going to a mortgage broker. I'm like, this sounds like really adulty and like, I don't know what to look for. And I remember having a conversation with another broker and I was like, why am I telling you the things? Like, you're not really supportive for me. And then I went to another broker who was incredible. But kind of just like some advice and like what the pathway could look like for people.
Yeah, mortgage broking is really interesting because you can become a mortgage broker quite easily. So it can be tricky to find ones who really understand what you want to do, especially if you have like a more complex situation with businesses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you see us, you do a like free 30-minute call to chat to one of our brokers. They'll go through your situation with you. They'll send you like an email kind of summarizing everything and even possibly a video depending on like what you prefer and your situation. And then from there, you can just decide if you want to work with us or not. But it's really like individual depending on the person.
Yeah.
But I've hired people intentionally who are really, really experienced, like way more experienced than me. So they're doing, which is good.
Yeah. Do you find that you'd give the advice for people to just talk to a mortgage broker sooner rather than later?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's so many little things that you don't know that the banks will look at unless a mortgage broker tells you.
Yeah.
Things like if your parents have gifted you money, sometimes you have to leave it in your bank account for 3 months before you can use it for it to be considered something called like genuine savings. So there's all these little things that you might not know unless you talk to someone.
Yeah.
And it's free, so you might as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people don't even know that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Now you've invested, you haven't one investment property.
I've
Two?
two. Yeah.
Two. Is that, I'm like, I was just listening to a podcast. Is that a recent purchase, your second one? Or
Well, I have the one in Perth, the apartment that I lived in, and
Yeah.
that's an investment property, and then I have the Brisbane one that I bought in
yes.
May. Crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my God, almost a year ago
Yeah.
then. Oh my God,
Yeah.
that is crazy. So talk me through like why investing. I think there's like that constant conversation around like purchase your first home and live in your first home and all of the things. Like, why did you go down the route of building investment portfolio? I know you lived in the Perth one for the first year, is that right?
Yeah, I lived in the Perth one because I wanted the first home buyer's grant back then.
Yeah.
And then I moved interstate during COVID, which was not a great idea, but anyway, here we are. Yes, then I rented that one out, and then I don't know where I want to live. I'm living in Melbourne at the moment. I've been there for a year. I probably won't stay there long term, so there's no point buying a house to live in Melbourne personally. So then I decided to buy another investment in Brisbane.
Yeah.
Like, the decisions I make are usually just about like, how do I have more freedom and flexibility, and how am I like generally heading in the right direction rather than having a fixed 10-year plan or stuff like that. Like, a lot of people come to me being like, oh, what's the plan for like in 5 years time? Or like, when do you want to buy somewhere to live? Or when do you want to do this? And when do you want to do that? And I don't like actually really know. So I'm just trying to open up all the doors that I can.
Yeah, totally. What was the process in terms of then purchasing your first home? Like in terms of savings, what that process looked like, that I think a lot of people don't know the hidden expenses. I know even for me, and it was like, oh, this solicitor's fee and like this thing and that thing. Like
all
I was
new words of like these people, and you're like, what is a conveyancer?
Yeah. I'm like, what is that thing? Building and pest, okay? Like
it was quite random, I guess. Like, I had savings and I knew that I wanted to buy a property at some point because that's what my parents had said to do. I think I had like 70 grand in savings. It was during COVID, so it was April of 2020. I think I put the offer in. I was just like driving around and I saw this apartment building had been built by the government to try and increase density in these random suburbs, which was really cool. I went to Home Open, loved it, and then put an offer in. I got to buy it a few weeks later, which was really fun. Because it was a first home buyer one, there wasn't too many extra expenses. Like, yes, there was the solicitor, conveyancer, there was the building and pest. I don't know what else we paid for. There's like PEXA fees and random things like that. There were a few $100s and stuff. But really, it wasn't like too bad. So I put down $52,000 as a deposit. I got the 10 grand first home buyer's grant. And then, I lived in it. Crazy.
Are they both positively geared?
Perth, yes. Brisbane, no. But they even out.
Yeah.
No, the Brisbane one is really not. My mortgage is like $1,000 a week and I get like $606 a week rent there.
Yeah.
There's been a few issues, but that's okay.
Yeah. It's probably like that's similar to me with like our mortgage repayments versus the rent that we're getting. And I think I'm not like in the investing game. Like, property's kind of been the thing that I've like heard from family, which is why I'm so excited to talk to you about investing. And I really want to go down that path as well.
So you own one investment property?
Yeah, we have one investment property. No, so we are renting currently, and then we purchased that one like as a principal place of residence. We renovated it. It took us 10 weeks to do the renos.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like, I'm getting in and out. And then we started renting it out, which has been so good. But it's definitely been one of those things for me with like a mindset piece of like, because it's costing right now, but I'm like, Taylor, if you were investing, it's still a cost. Like, you're like, I'm so used to just getting a return right away. And I'm like, this is so rude. But I'm like,
very interesting switching that mindset between like being a saver and then spending. It's been quite interesting in business that way as well. Because I used to be very frugal and want to save a lot of money. But now to start a new business, you have to spend a lot of money. And that's been quite interesting, like flipping between the two. And it almost feels like monopoly money now. Where you're like, oh, well, just spend my money on this stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's like such a weird in between as well, because it will pay off in 10, 20 years. But like in the moment, you're like, is this the right decision? And I think when it is your money, it can feel like, it feels really bizarre. I'm like, is this the right decision?
Yeah, I feel like I think as it's taken me years to get to this point, I feel okay with it now. But it's also interesting to try and be like, oh, don't overspend now. Because it's hard to, I'm very like all or nothing. Where I'll be very frugal and then I'll like be like, okay, we're like hiring 4 staff. Good times.
Yeah. How do you kind of budget? So now you've got your business. Obviously, you had like your business of like personal brand and things like that. But what is kind of your process around being able to take more like risk, but also like still having data to kind of back you? Like whether that be, maybe we'll start with business first, because I feel like that's a big one for people. Like, do I invest in the thing? Do I keep the money for cash flow? Like, what's your process with how that you manage finances?
When I first switched from being a sole trader, well, back when I quit my job, actually, so I was making, I think it was like 60 grand a year when I quit my job to do it full time. So I was like, cool, I can actually cover all my expenses before I take that risk. So I've been very risk averse until now, I guess, where I've like made sure I could actually make money from something before I've taken that big leap. So I dropped down, I think I worked full time, and then I dropped down to part time, and then I dropped down to just like doing business full-time or doing content full-time, which was really fun. And then I switched over to a company. I paid myself 60 grand a year for a little while from that. And then I moved it up to 120, and now I pay myself 170 grand a year from the content business, which is like amazing. Very cool. But that was just like kind of trial and error. And I waited until I built up big cash buffers before I increased how much I paid myself. But for the mortgage broking one, that's been really fun and interesting because I'm earning a lot of money at the moment. But the cash cycle, I guess, for mortgage broking is you'll see a client, you'll get the money or the commission maybe in 4 to 6 months after you see some people in terms of like settlements, or sometimes people take a while to find property, especially at the moment. So the general thing there is you might make your money back and be profitable after a year, maybe. Hopefully. So I've committed a decent amount of money to it to hire like the first 4 team members. But it's just kind of a game of maths, I guess. Like other businesses are a bit harder because you don't have the exact, it's just a lot harder to predict in like coaching businesses or other things. Mortgage broking is very like, you see a client, you'll hopefully get paid in 4 to 6 months and you know how much you'll get paid. But with other things, it's a lot more up in the air. Like content was a lot more up in the air for so long.
Yeah, totally. And you mentioned buffers. Like, how did you create that stability in a very like unpredictable kind of business landscape?
I think it was just having a job for so long.
Yeah,
and not relying on it until I had that kind of big buffer saved up.
Yeah.
Like in my first business now, I've got like almost 200 grand in cash, which is just crazy. And before I hired my first team member, like I pay her 81 grand a year plus super. Before I hired her, I had 90 grand in cash saved up in the business. So I kind of knew that I could still pay her salary, even if like for some reason I made no money. Which is not the best advice ever, because that's like a massive amount to have saved. But that just made me feel more secure.
If you're listening to this podcast having a realization that you genuinely need more structure and strategy in your business, this is your sign. The Strategic House Business Accelerator is where we take everything that I mention in this podcast and turn it into action. It is designed for women in business that are ready to scale to 30K months and beyond, but more importantly, sustainably. You get a customized business audit and implementation plan, direct access to me, expert guest speakers, multiple trainings per month, and it is a hands-on hybrid accelerator that's going to take you from where you are to exactly where you want to be. This is a community of women with all different backgrounds, industries, and models in their business. We have naturopaths, health and fitness coaches, interior designers, e-com founders, and even owners of marketing agencies inside of this accelerator. If this sounds like it could be something that you're interested in, you can check out the show notes below with more information on the Business Accelerator, or you're always welcome to slide into my DMs and we can have a conversation there. Let's get back to the show. I feel like I'm the exact same in that, which is why I asked the question around like risks, because I'm probably too far on the spectrum of just like, I need to have this amount saved. Like I need to like feel really safe in decisions.
That's good though. Like a study I think they did in Princeton a little while ago where it's like people in financial distress have an IQ, have the equivalent of a lower IQ of like 13 points or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, don't make decisions when you're financially stressed and do everything you can to not be financially distressed.
Yeah.
So I think it's, yes, there's business advice being like, you should scale really quickly and you should all of this stuff. But I also think you shouldn't put yourself in stress if you can avoid it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's such a piece around like sustainable business, which, like it's really celebrated to be like, we like, 10x our revenue in like this short period of time. But I think even like considering the human behind the business as well, of just like how that you're actually feeling, and something I'm so for, I'm like, well, if your relationship's suffering, if your health's suffering as a result, like what is the cost?
And are you enjoying it?
Yeah.
I just don't want to be that stressed. And I don't want to have to like make desperate decisions. And especially when you start hiring people, like I feel so like responsible for the people that I hire. Like they're real adults with kids, some of them, which is just crazy. I don't want to make a really rash decision and then have to fire them because I've not planned properly myself.
Yeah.
That is terrifying to me.
Yeah, totally. What do you kind of recommend as a bit of a buffer, like for people? Again, kind of general, and each business is going to be so unique, but would you say it's kind of calculating what like the monthly expenses are and then having like a kind of similar to like your emergency fund personally?
Do it similar, Depends on the industry you're in and like how long it takes you to make cash, I guess. Like with mortgage broking, now that I know that I need like a year's salaries saved up, ideally. And that's like a really decent like buffer because I could go down to 6 months or something like that. But if you run a business where maybe it takes like 6 to 12 months to get someone in the door, maybe you run something where you can actually like put up a sale and sell something really, really quickly, that might be a bit different as well. It's also whatever someone's comfortable with. How many months do you have saved up?
I've got, now it's probably like a year and a half.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's just because I'm coming into like maternity leave as well. I think for me, like 6 months was like, that feels pretty good.
I like 3 to 6 months initially. I guess it depends. Like, what do you have around you in terms of safety net? So back like before, a few years ago, I knew that I could always move home with my parents if something went wrong. I didn't have team members a few years ago, so I knew it was just me and I could be really frugal. So I was a little bit less conservative then. But now that I've got team members involved, I don't want to make a big decision and then not be able to pay them. So it's a bit more now.
Yeah.
I think 3 to 6 months is a great starting point for sure.
Yeah. And something that I love that you said of like taking like a lower salary at the start. And I think that's like for people to even see the numbers as well of like, what was it? Did you say 60?
Yeah, it was 60.
60. And then now it's like closer to a 200K salary that you're able to, pay yourself, which is really cool. But I think a lot of the time people can kind of get, it's almost like the lifestyle creep, right? But like almost in like, oh, well, I can take home this. And it's like, well, let's just build a buffer and like ensure you can.
Crazy seeing how much money is not yours in a business sense. Like that is such
so
a hard
rude.
thing to wrap your head around. Yeah. Paying the ATO bills, being like, wow, that's not mine. Especially with GST as well, because you just like see that in your bank account and you think that it's yours. And that's a really hard thing to get over.
Yeah. How do you kind of go about, or it might look a little bit different now with like a bit more complexity with multiple businesses, but let's maybe say when that you were like sole trader, kind of transitioning to company for your content part of your business. What was your process around like, did you have a separate account that like that's kind of where you put like the tax and GST money to create that separation? Or
if I was giving advice, I'd tell people to do that, but I kind of just knew, I guess, and I was very conservative with the money that I took out of it. So I think that year that I took 60 grand, I think the business made over 100K anyway.
Yeah.
So I was just conservative in that way. I think after you kind of are paying attention to your finances for so long, like I've been doing this for over a decade, you kind of just know sometimes as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure, I'd recommend like putting the whole like 30% away into a different savings account for sure.
Yeah. Are you like a spreadsheet person? Because I was going to say that because I feel like sometimes something serves you up until a certain point, and I think I go to make myself wrong for that because I'm like, oh, like I'm not spreadsheeting and I'm not like tracking like every coffee that I purchase.
I used to do that for sure.
But I'm like,
just know.
Yeah. I think now I'm like, I feel really across it in terms of like how I manage it, and I know for me like what's more sustainable is like the thing where I'm like, I'm not going to sit down every week and like sit down for an hour in my spreadsheet. But I think if you're like not across your money, that's really important to do.
I think it's really good to get really intentional with it and to not bury your head in the sand. But I think if you like do that for a while, you like actually really start to understand your finances. You like are really reading your BAS every quarter or your business reports every quarter. Like I think you're going to be fine because I do that as well. And I generally know like if I look at my bank account and it's gone down quite a bit, I'm like, oh, that's not very nice. What do I want to do about that?
What is happening?
Yeah.
Do you do like weekly money meetings, monthly money meetings? Like how do you review the finances and like the performance of your business?
I guess like every quarter I was doing it with I've got a bookkeeper, which has been amazing because I actually don't enjoy like the nitty gritty. Reconciling things is not ideal for me. But now with the mortgage broker stuff, I have to pay them every 2 weeks. So I've been kind of checking in every 2 weeks with how it's going.
Yeah. Especially like at the start where, like you said, it kind of feels like you're burning money a little bit.
It's crazy.
And wow, like especially like the 4 to 6 months, I'm like, you probably won't be even really seeing like any like profit or revenue really until.
There might be a few quick wins, but no, probably not. And because I had to fire someone after, I think they worked for 3 weeks before I had to fire them. Like that also put us behind a little bit too. But I kind of expected issues, not this one in particular, but.
Yeah, that's so difficult.
Yeah,
and also like how much that hiring costs. That's something that I've never appreciated.
Yeah, I hired the first 3 myself, and then I had to fire one of those ones. But the next 2, I just used a recruiter. And he was quite expensive. He charges 15% of like the total package that you pay them. So I think, that ended up costing me a little bit of money. But I think it was worth it because he guarantees that if they don't work out, he'll replace them. And he kind of gives HR support along the way as well.
That's cool.
Yeah. But that was a big decision as well. That was like the monopoly money feeling, being like, oh yeah, let's just pay 30 grand to hire 2 people.
Yeah.
Crazy. And CCADs? That surprised me so much how expensive that is.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll just put it on Instagram. And it's like, no, you actually need to be on like those platforms.
Yeah. How did you hire your team member?
Literally on like Facebook. I like put it out to like friends and family.
Oh, amazing.
And it just like worked out well. And she was studying like business and psych, which is amazing. Like such a perfect role, especially like it was really where I was transitioning from having a VA to then like wanting more in-house support. And that just like somehow was on a whim. I'm like, I probably wouldn't recommend it. And like, she didn't even have a role description for like the first year pretty well. I was like,
that was like my first employee as well. I just put up an Instagram story and said, pitch me your dream job. And then she pitched me an admin assistant job. And I was like, yeah, perfect. And we kind of just made up her job title. I was like, what do you want to be called?
Literally, I'm like, what is a KPI? I'm not sure. And it's like, Dad was like, so you're doing quarterly reviews? I'm like, what questions do I ask?
Yeah.
But it's one of those things as well where it is somewhat chucking yourself in the deep end of, like you said off air before, of like, you can just Google it.
Oh, you can Google everything.
And especially with AI nowadays.
Yeah, I've got screenshots that I'm going to save for a post when the business does well in 6 months' time. But it's the screenshots of how I Googled it in like October 30th and then November 1st and then November 2nd I bought the domain and November 3rd I put the CCATs up.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can Google everything.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think more people need to kind of embrace the just like doing it, like especially in the nature of the work that I do. Like a lot of people be like, okay, like consulting, I want support, but think it's like a handhold for like every step of the way. And I'm like, you do have to be someone that can take action on your own, and then you have that support of like, hey, how am I doing this? Or like, how can I better my marketing? How can I like, support cash flow, whatever it is, like actually leading with that first.
The more successful people I meet, the more I realize that everyone's just making it up as they go. And that's been really validating to be like, wow, you can literally just do whatever you want and everyone's just figuring it out as they go. And they're the most successful people who've just been like, oh, well, we'll just figure it out as we go.
Yeah.
Because I'm not like that special or smart or like anything different. I just decided to do the things, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. And I think that consistency as well, when I think a lot of people can look on the outside and, like look at maybe your follower count or like, being in Forbes at 30 under 30 or whatever it might be, but you have been at this for almost 6 years now.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
When do you feel like was the moment that it was like, oh, this is like becoming a thing? Like how far into it do you think it was?
I'm really lucky that it took off quite quickly, just the timing of everyone being home and bored during COVID. I think I got to 10,000 followers in like a few months, which was really awesome. And then it kind of stagnated for a little bit. But it was when I quit my job in like the start of 2023. I just graduated uni. I'd started working as an OT, like officially in my official OT job. And then I was too busy. The podcast was taking off. I was getting invited to lots of events. I was making enough money to cover like more than my OT salary almost at that point as well. Where I was like, oh, actually like this is a proper thing.
Yeah.
And I was kind of fighting it for a little bit too. I was like, I don't want to be a full-time influencer. That's not me. But yeah, it was just too hard to do everything.
Yeah. And I think having that more and more like the personal brand that can actually just like support other areas of business and other opportunities is so, I don't even want to say underrated. I think people know the value in it, but it's just like so incredible.
Yeah. I think I only really felt like it was working properly like last year, where I was like, wow, like actually like this feels easy now and I feel a bit more complacent.
Yeah.
So it took a while.
Yeah. And I think it's that as well, as like people wanting results in like 12 weeks.
Yeah. You do it on the side and you have a job. I think you can give yourself a lot more grace and not put too much pressure on it.
Yeah, totally. I'd love to shift gears. We've got a like hypothetical listener financial situation for you. And I think we can then kind of transition into investing then. Because I think a lot of the time with like people's circumstances, you never know like, well, how much should I be saving? Like we're saying, like no one kind of teaches you the way of like, how much should I save? How much should I do here? I've got debt here. So we've got a hypothetical situation of a sole trader who is an online fitness coach. They're turning over 150K in revenue in their business. Amazing. Which works out to be approximately 80K profit after expenses and tax. They have 10K in personal debt and 30K on their HEX debt. They're renting on the Gold Coast, which would probably be quite expensive. They don't put super aside at the moment, and they have around $600 a week after expenses to save, invest, or pay off debt. What should they prioritize for long-term wealth?
Amazing. How exciting. It depends. The really annoying answer. So many options that they could do. Ones that I hear all the time, people say, should I pay off my HEX debt? I think the answer is no, don't do that. Because it's like one of the only debts that you don't have to pay back if you're not earning enough money. So I think that should be the lowest on your priority list. Depends, do they want to save for a house? Do they care about that? Do they not care about that? Do they want to invest in shares because they want flexibility? Do they want to hire someone else in their business? Like it's really hard to say. But I think putting aside some money for super for sure is really important. Like even a little bit, like that's really good to prioritize, and you get tax benefits as well. And then they could just buy an ETF if they wanted to as well from there. Yeah. It's such a tricky one because it really just depends on the person.
Yeah, and what the unique goals are.
Do you invest in shares?
No, I
don't.
Bought a property.
Why don't you invest in shares?
Purely from like a lack of knowledge.
Yeah, okay.
Which is like why then I'm really excited to have this conversation. I feel like it's been one of those things as well, because I'm so like logical and calculated. I want to be like across something so in depth before I like make a move, which is so random. It's like that's what puts me off. And I know a lot of people would probably be in a similar boat, but I know my partner and I, especially coming into this season, baby's due in May, we're like, okay, we've got our equity increase like 250K in a 6-month period, which is
insane. Amazing.
Insane. Thank you. So we're like, okay, do we invest in another property? And I'm like, I kind of feel like shares is something that I really want to like just start diversifying, really.
Yeah, I think shares are great for business owners because it's like a bit more flexibility. Like properties, you can refinance if it's gone up, but you can't really like sell off a bathroom if you need money. But if there's something goes wrong and you can like sell your shares, which is probably not ideal, but at least you've got the option there to sell them.
I would love, and this is going to be perfect because it's like shares for dummies over here, investing for dummies over here. So when we kind of talk about like the whole process of investing, what's like if that someone was like super beginner to it? Where are they going? Like, what app are we getting? Like, one of my friends just like, you just get this app and you just do this thing. And I'm like, perfect. I'm still confused.
You should, before you start investing, you should think about your emergency fund. We spoke about that already for business stuff. Make sure you've got some money there because you only really lose money with shares if you sell them when they've gone down. So you want to avoid needing to sell them at any time if you can avoid it. Pay off any high interest debts. So things like credit cards if you're carrying a balance, or maybe you pay off a personal loan. Anything over like 7 to 10% interest rate, you might look to pay that off first.
Okay.
And then make sure you know what kind of cash flow you have left over. If it might be $100 a week or $600 a week, whatever that amount is. Yes, go and pick an app from there. I use Perla. I've watched them for like 4 or 5 years on my Instagram. I really love them because they're built for long-term investing and they try not to distract people. A lot of the apps love to tell you to go and like buy these winners or here are the daily losers, or they try and distract you with all of these fancy things that you don't need. Other good options are CommSec Pocket is like a simplified version of CommSec. That's really good. You can try a micro-investing app like Raise. So they're the apps that you can try and pick. And then if you use something like Pearl, you've got to pick something called an ETF. It's a good idea. These are baskets of shares. So instead of buying one share, like you might, I don't know, if you go to Coles or Woolies and you want a chocolate bar and you don't really know what to buy, instead of buying a Kit Kat or something, you might buy a favourites box. So think of the ETF like the favourites box.
I love that analogy.
An expert, you want an expert to pick it for you. And then you just buy it. It's really not that hard, but I think we build it up in our heads as this really like big scary thing because there's a lot of words sometimes people use and a lot of jargon, and it seems like it's too good to be true. Which like it does feel like that. Like it shouldn't be that easy to just put money in and hopefully it will go up.
And I think as well, like I know for me, you hear like, you know, crypto, and like I think that's where it kind of gets like the lines get blurred, and I'm like, no, they're not the same thing.
Again, crypto for now. Just buying an ETF like something called DHHF it's called the Vita Shares Diversified All Growth ETF, but it's kind of like your super fund where you're buying 8,000 companies in one ETF. And there's a reason the government is putting all of our retirement savings in super funds because it's like probably going to go up. And if it doesn't go up, there's probably worse things happening in the world.
And I think it's almost that piece as well of like wanting to have the security of like the money in your bank account and in your savings when we actually are looking at inflation and things like that, you actually need to be investing.
Yes, in some way. And it takes a while to get comfortable with it. Like I started when I was 18 and I'm 28 now, which is crazy. But it took me a few years to really feel comfortable with it because I was like, oh, this is nerve-wracking and I don't understand, and there's all these things on the news, and what if I lose money? But it takes a while to be okay with your money going up and down. I think with business as well, it takes a while to get comfortable seeing things come in and out and realizing that it goes up over the long term.
What's your process around kind of, because I could imagine if you're like checking it every single day, like I think that could create a bit of like an anxious attachment. Like what's your process now of like, and then kind of knowing where to invest and things like that? Not that you need to like kind of tell people this is exactly where I invest, but what is your process? Do you kind of go in weekly, monthly? Like what's your process with investing now?
I have an auto transfer set up that's $400 a week, and then it invests once it hits $1,200, so I don't have to pay brokerage fees. Brokerage fees is the amount you pay to actually buy and sell the shares. So I pay one brokerage fee every $1,200, but it just goes into something called DHHF, that ETF I was talking about, which buys 8,000 companies across the whole world. I don't even really check it that closely anymore unless I'm making content, then I'll go check it. Originally I was checking it all the time every day, but it's just like a bit pointless if you're investing for 10 years to check it every single day because it doesn't actually matter if it goes up and down in the short term.
Totally. Would you be able to break down the kind of difference for people around like investing in property versus investing in shares? Like you mentioned, you can't just like sell off a bathroom in a property. But for anyone listening of like if that they're not sure where to start, or maybe they've been told kind of similar to myself, like, you know, property is the way and like that's like the safest investment.
Terrifying. I find that such interesting advice because like, if you buy shares, you're buying 8,000 companies sometimes, or 200 companies or 500 companies, and you're spreading your risk across Australia, maybe the US, maybe other countries as well. But if you buy one property on one street, like that is insane, having all of your wealth in one property, to me personally.
No, it is.
You can see it, which is really cool. I think unfortunately the tax system is set up to benefit people who own property first. So I think probably the ideal setup is to buy property and then refinance and invest in shares because
Yeah.
then you can get cheap access to loans and things like that with your mortgage. Unfortunately, you can't just borrow $1 million to buy shares that easily. It just doesn't work that way, which really sucks. But it can take a while to save up to buy property. So maybe you will invest to save your deposit, then buy the property, and then maybe go back to shares. It really depends. But like property is getting harder and harder to buy, which is not ideal too.
Yeah. So could you hypothetically be investing and then take that out like as that goes up and then put that into your property deposit?
Yes. It's a bit riskier. Like I think it's fine to do that if you are really flexible with your timeline. So if the stock market crashes and you can wait 2 or 3 or 5 years, then sure, that's an option. If you know that you definitely need to buy property in 2 years because you're starting a family or you're moving or like whatever it is, I wouldn't invest your deposit then. But if you can be flexible and you can write it out, then yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You can use the first time super saver scheme as well, where you save money in your super fund to save on tax. That's a really good option too.
I didn't even know that was a scheme.
I know. I didn't know until after I bought my property as well.
Yeah. Wow.
You can save up to 50 grand in your super and you save at the super tax rate rather than your personal tax rate.
Wow.
Yeah.
I need to look into that. I'm like, take notes.
Yes. Everyone else who hasn't bought property yet.
Yeah. And then you mentioned as well with property refinancing and taking that out and investing into shares. So same kind of thing. You can do the same with property. I'm like, is that my game plan?
Yeah, refinance either buy property or shares.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because you can't just like get a cheap-ish interest rate, I guess, if you're just buying shares. But if you've got it against a property, you can refinance to invest.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. This is crazy. There's so many options. And I think that's like potentially overwhelming, but then also it's like dependent on your situation, your goals, all of the things. There is so many options available to you.
There's a lot of options. I think it's really hard if you're trying to optimize everything and you're one of those people who wants to optimize everything, like you were saying, and get the perfect plan and really understand it. But I think as long as you're heading in the general right direction and you just kind of see it as that way where it's like, okay, I could sit down and try and optimize these things, but is it really worth it as long as I'm kind of doing something? I think
yeah, it's so true. It's like being like too calculated to the point that you like don't take any action.
Yeah, well, I used to be like that where I'd like log in and be like, oh, I'm going to buy a different ETF this week. But they were the same pretty much. Like it didn't matter. And now I've got 20 random ETFs from my years of learning. But it's like I've made it messy. It's fine because it was my learning experience, I guess, but it wasn't really needed to go and fiddle around that much.
Yeah. And it's one of those things I was even saying to a friend the other day because she was asking questions about like, purchasing her first property. And I'm like, you honestly just learn it in it though as well. I'm like, there was things from like podcasts and like all of the things that I had known to expect and, unexpected finances and costs and all of the things. But I think it is one of those things of like, until you're in it and it's like, oh, this thing and like, you understand the language.
And especially with investing, like there's more room for error. If you're buying $1,000 in an ETF and it's the wrong ETF, it doesn't matter. When you buy property, like that's a bit more terrifying. If you buy $1 million property and then there's things wrong with it, like that's really not ideal. But with shares, like you can experiment and it doesn't really matter too much. And it's crazy that we'll happily spend $1,000 on a Bali trip or $20 a week on lunch or whatever it happens to be and not really think about that money going missing. But then when it comes to shares, people seem to have this really big risk, like loss aversion to it where they're like, oh, I don't want to lose money. I don't want to mess up. But like you can mess up. If it's only $1,000, it doesn't really matter.
It is so true. Yeah, I love that. For someone that is listening to this and they have built their business to be maybe kind of anywhere between turning over 6 to like multiple 6 figures and they haven't invested in property, shares, all of the things, what can kind of be like, what would you advise them of like, is it even just starting like investing into shares like $100 a week? Like, is that kind of the main thing you'd get people to just like start getting the ball rolling?
Whatever they're really interested in. Like if you're really interested in property, do that. If you're really interested in shares, do that. If you care more about super, do that. Like find the thing that is, yes, easiest for you, but also that you really care about actually learning about and doing first. If it's $100 a week in shares, amazing. If it's paying yourself super if you haven't already, amazing. If it's starting to save for your property deposit, amazing. I think it's just, thinking longer term and being like, cool, what happens if this business doesn't work out for whatever reason?
Yeah, I think that as well. And I think a lot of people want to be naive or like not kind of manifest, the business failing. But I think it's so important to be realistic. And COVID's a perfect example of like, you couldn't have predicted it. And it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with you as a person. Like that's sometimes just the way that the world works.
Yeah, not even like, I do understand the whole, like, don't have plan B, but also like, what if you change your mind? Like I love changing my mind, which is why I think I've gotten where I am now because I changed my mind and tried lots of different things, but I want to build like my life around all of those different options. So I hope it will work and I'm trying really hard to make it work and I've invested a lot of money into this next business, but also like if it doesn't work, I'm going to be fine. And I like knowing that I'm going to be fine anyway.
Yeah. And investing's created that safety for you in terms of that, like being fine.
Yeah. I have like, 300 grand in shares. I've got the 2 properties now. I can pay myself a decent wage from the first business. Like I feel financially secure enough to make fun, interesting, risky decisions now, which is like really helpful. Yeah.
What do you feel like is your, if you were to ask me this question, I'd be like, I actually don't really know. So here I'm going to ask you, but like 5-year kind of goal in terms of Because I feel like, have you created content around like based on how much that you're investing that you'll be able to retire
Yeah.
at a certain age?
Yeah.
What was that age? What's that age for you?
I more do it like if in 40 years this is how much money I'm going to have.
Yeah,
based on
yeah,
this stuff.
yeah,
I used to think I wanted to retire early, but now I actually realize I enjoy working. I just didn't want
yeah.
to work for someone else.
Yeah, totally. What do you feel like in the next 5 years is something that you want to progress towards? Like, do you want to continue building your property portfolio?
Yeah, I'm focused on the business stuff at the moment. I want the mortgage bank business to run sustainably without me because it's built off my audience at the moment and that's not sustainable forever. I want to build it to be able to sell it in the future.
Yeah.
So yeah, making sure that that's got like an ops manager and I don't really actually need to be involved in the day-to-day would be amazing. But beyond that, like I could never have predicted where I am now 5 years ago. Like if someone had said like, I don't know, describe your ideal life, I'd be like, I don't know, not this.
Yeah.
So I don't want to close my mind off to other random things that could happen as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You mentioned building the business to sell it. And I think that's something that a lot of people, it was honestly like myself, even in the past like year or two, I'm like, oh, true, I can build this to actually be an asset that's like worth something, especially since I've been getting into the conversation of net worth. I'm like, oh, true, I do have this company that's actually worth something.
Yeah,
what's kind of been your mindset then, obviously, to like operate without you, but in terms of building a business that's actually an asset, what things are you really considering in that?
it being able to run without me. So thinking longer term about marketing, like in building up its own Instagram channel that won't need me. I've called it Tash Lens, which probably wasn't the smartest thing ever because it's based off me, but all fine for now because Jim's mowing called it after his name.
So true.
Yeah. If he can do it, I can do it maybe. But yeah, just thinking about the systems and the structure and the people I've hired and the processes and making sure like kind of implementing processes from the start. Mortgage broker businesses are kind of worth a lot of money if you've got your CRM set up correctly and you've got your customer data correctly and it's not a mess in the back end. So making sure that's all set up really well. And just thinking about like the hires moving forward and how quickly can I actually get myself out of it. I think it's easier because I'm not a mortgage broker, so I don't actually have to remove myself from that part of it.
Yeah.
It's the person hiring at the moment. And once I've hired and then I hire an ops person, like hope to run without me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being very optimistic. We'll see.
Yeah. It is so true though, in terms of like the importance of systems and then making sure that like you actually have a profitable business as well. That's something that's what people want to invest in purchase.
I'm not a systems person normally because it's always been me doing my own thing. And even my assistant now, it's like whatever my brain feels like on the day. It's a bit more random, but now having to actually think ahead of time has been quite interesting.
Yeah.
A challenge.
Yeah, totally. So what have those 4 hires been, if you don't mind sharing, for the business so far?
2 mortgage brokers and 2 credit analysts.
Yeah.
So credit analysts do the kind of behind the scenes research and the mortgage brokers are like the sales people who help manage the customer relationships.
Yeah. And then the next hire will be an ops manager to kind of manage all of the operations. Is that your plan?
No, not yet. I think I want to hire a social person for Tash Lens as well to try and get that running without me because there's only so much creative energy you can have and I am tired.
Yeah.
And then I also want to hire like a general admin assistant as well, maybe like a customer success manager first and then ops after that.
Yeah. Cool.
We'll see how much money we make.
Yeah, we shall see. How do you go about planning? Obviously, now you've got like multiple accounts and then you've got your podcast as well. You don't do your podcast content?
No, I don't do that anymore.
Yeah. So what is like your process with content creation? Because I think as well when that you're not necessarily like saying the same thing over and over, right? Like
the same thing,
but it's like it's all in like kind of creating like new creative ways to say the same concept. Or I even know with content, you're like, oh, I've spoken about that before, but like people probably haven't even heard it or like computed that you've said it. So what's your process with content? Are you pretty much like on the fly? Do you plan the week and schedule? Like how are you currently doing content?
I need to be more organized. I've tried to make series that I don't have to do myself, like the finance file series. My assistant puts those together now, which is really awesome. Like I made the template and everything for her.
Yeah.
But no, it's very random. It's like, what do I want to post today? And if I can't think of anything, I'll post a finance file. I should get more organized. The Tashlin stuff is more organized. We've scheduled that out. Get Rich Slow Club, I don't make that, but I like review it. So we scheduled that out a few weeks ahead of time now.
Yeah.
My assistant does my Facebook page. She like repurposes my other content, but I should get more organized. I just feel like if I sit on content for too long, I don't want to post it.
Yeah, I agree. You sometimes get the ick. Like I've got so many drafts and I'm like, I can't post them now. Yeah, totally. What was my other question for you in that? Do you use data much when it comes to, because I obviously know we're talking about at the start, what's going to get a reaction, but do you use data in your content to then like kind of almost like repurpose the exact same concept?
Oh yeah.
Again?
Yeah. The ones that do really well. Yeah. I've like remade that heaps. I do it like every year when I've like turned a year older. I'm like, oh, because I think the first time I did it was like, I'm 26 and now I'm 27, now I'm 28. So I'll do updated versions. I'll like expand on them for sure. I don't really like look at the data super in detail. You kind of just like know what does well. And if I'm stuck for inspo, I'll go back to like my highest viewed reels and be like, oh, how can I remake that?
Yeah, totally. I love it.
Is that what you do as well?
Yeah, I am lucky now in terms of having Amelia who does like more of like my marketing, like it's because my podcast content's shared over on my page. So we kind of know what days is like podcast snippets to push people to the podcast. But I am like a huge data nerd. So I'm looking at like, especially because I get a lot of inquiries is like from my socials. So it's kind of about balancing like what's going to get visibility, but then also what's going to get inquiries.
Yes, that'll be an interesting, fun game for the mortgage broking business for sure.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I posted last night, I'm like, I always know social proof. I feel like that's pretty much anything for anyone in the service-based business. But I'm like, anytime I post social proof, so did a case study, and the way I broke down the case study, and it's like inquiries coming through, and it's like clockwork. So like I know now as well, like because I've tested for so many years, what actually works to be like, cool, I want inquiries, sales here. Yeah, which is so cool. Good. Yeah. Well, I'm going to wrap it up there. That has been such a good conversation. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared and so transparently as well. I've loved like getting like in so many different facets with you. I am going to take it over to the private feed now because I would love to get, I know we briefly touched on the investing side of things, a 5-step kind of process to investing. So if you want to listen to that, jump over there. But before we wrap it up over on the Simply Business podcast, where can everyone find you? I know I briefly touched on the things, but like, what are your Instagram handles? Where can everyone find you?
Yes, Tash Invest is the main one, and then you can link to all the other ones from there. I linked them all there. But the other one is Tash Lenses Mortgage Broking Business and Get Rich Like Club is the podcast.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's another episode of Simply Business. I would love for you to rate this podcast, comment below if you have any feedback, DM me on Instagram, and even better, share it with your friends, family, or share on Instagram. See you in the next episode.